have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, folks. How are you? G'day, Andrew. First one in the house tonight, mate. Nice to have you in and everybody else around you. The lovely Donna was second in. And then, of course, our new mum. Oh, God, I love this. The story here behind the scenes, folks, if you're not up to it, is, or up with it, is just a beautiful, beautiful story. Rachel's message there says it all. Congratulations. It's a boy. Jimmy Fergus Kyle, or JFK for short. Only weighs a kilo. Mother and son doing very well. Mother likely to fall asleep shortly. That's probably because JFK has been running around making new friends today at Rachel's place, and he was able to do it in a pretty nice way. Looking the goods, can I just say. He's had a bath, he's been groomed, and now he has a beautiful, 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 beautiful new jacket to be kept warm in, as you can see. And he's following his mum around pretty happily. So little Jimmy, for those that are unaware, little Jimmy is the dog that Black Sheep's dad had up until he passed away. Black Sheep would have loved to have kept little Jimmy, but Jimmy being a horny little boy and Black Sheep owning a girl named Ace, a big black lab from memory, she is, would have made for some interesting times, I'm sure, but it was very difficult keeping the two apart. And with just him there now, it would be very difficult indeed. So one thing led to another, and Rachel stepped in to look after him for a little while in the short term, and as it looks, he's staying. There's been a certain amount of co-adoption going on, I think. So it's just a beautiful story, a beautiful, beautiful story. And Jimmy looks very happy, and I haven't played the audio, but by the sounds of the audio on it, Rachel sounds pretty happy with it all too, just got to say. Spazza, evening to you, brother. Hello, Paul. I hope you get back to listen to the show. Tony, my good friend, thank you for sending me through the stuff that you've sent today. It's been a bit interesting what's going on in the world down south. The Salty Convict is back in the house. I trust you are doing all right. Ads, you too, mate. And J1, nice to see you kicking around. Sandy, God love you, woman. Now, Sandy, I hope things are going well at the Donkey Sanctuary. We were going to catch up and talk at some stage recently, and it hasn't happened. My apologies. So I trust things are going all well there, and we will have another winner for you, I hope. Draw number 6 is on the way. We have... how many tickets have we sold? I want to say 177 tickets sold so far in draw number 6. That'll get you first prize of $750. Second prize is... I won't do that because that's going to break a pair of glasses. We'll get you one of these. Now, inside it is 10 beautiful Ainsley Byron Bob rounds, and you can see how beautiful and shiny they are. Truly beautiful. And I took this into town the other day. There's a lady in there that I see practically every morning for my morning coffee, and she likes shiny things. So I thought I'd just show that to her. She doesn't really understand Voice of Freedom, doesn't know much or anything about it as far as I'm aware. So I just thought I'd show that to her. So she wants to order one now too. So maybe it pays to take them out and, get them to shine a little bit. But if you would like one, we can help you out with that. Just email me, carl@vofhq.com. I was talking to Vince earlier today. We've had new filament arrive. which I hope will fix the problems of the old filament, which kept breaking or jamming or sticking or getting goopy, or something happened that essentially meant you'd get 3/4 of the way through building one of these things. And it's a 2-part process. You got to build this bit, and then you got to build that bit. And this bit is got to have holes for these bits. So if it stops, the whole thing's buggered. And that's essentially what happened. So we've upgraded the filament. Fingers crossed that'll be good, but it still does take 5 to 6 hours, I think he said, to make one of those. And so far we've got orders for, well, more than one. Not a huge amount of orders, I'll say, but it's been really lovely. The people who have signed up to buy. And for those of you who are going into Ainsley Bullion and asking if they can sell you one of these beautiful Voice of Freedom Byron Bob packs, they can't, unfortunately. I will be showing the team when I go in and see them. I was hoping to do that one day this week, but I don't think that's going to happen. It might be one day next week. And I was hoping to go in and show them. I know Michael has seen it, but not really had a good opportunity to look at them up close and personal. So you never know, they might decide to take a bit of fun out and make their own Voice of Freedom one and sell it through there. Who knows? Anything is possible. Encourage them that way. Why don't you do that? Say, oh, you should make a Voice of Freedom pack. Oh, look, here I am trying to influence Ainsley Bullion. Why would I want to influence you with Ainsley Bullion? What's the price of silver at the moment? I did tell you it was going to drop back under $60, which it has done quite successfully, but it hasn't dropped back much. Have you noticed? I think when it first went through 60, it dropped back to, I want to say high 58s. It's now sitting at 59.64. It's been as high as 59.81, I think, today. It goes up a little bit, it comes back a little bit. It goes up a little bit further, it comes back a little bit further. But it never goes back a long, long, long way. Like from $59, it's not likely to drop back to $50. Let's be honest. So if it is going to drop back, it might go into the 58s. Whereas a week ago, we were saying, oh, well, it might go back to the 56s. It's on the way up, folks. If you haven't got on the train yet, please do. Even if you can only buy yourself, like me, 1 or 2 coins, or if you can only get yourself some of these 1/10 of an ounce rounds, they're going to become a lot more valuable than what you pay for them here today or through Ainsley Bullion. You pay the same, essentially you pay the same price for an ounce of silver, because that's what these are. I can't sell them cheaper than Ainsley Bullion can to you. I'm not allowed to do that. And what we've done is we've basically put a $60 price on the silver that's in here to allow us to cover this fluctuation in the price. If it busts through $60, then we're going to need to put more. These will cost more because the price we have to pay for the silver that's in them is higher. And we pay the spot price for it. So that's the deal with those. If you would like one, they are an appreciating product, if you like. Okay, the bit of plastic, I don't know how valuable that'll be, but I will sign the back of it if you want, and I will number them. Vince said that mightn't be a bad idea, so I will certainly arrange that, and we will start sending those out, I hope, toward the end of next week. Vince is going to be madly printing up a few more of these magnificent packs in the next day or a couple of days, and then he'll be whacking them in the post to me, hopefully on Friday. Oh, tomorrow would be Friday, wouldn't it? Well, hopefully he's going to whack some in the post to me tomorrow. That means that they should get to me on Monday, Tuesday at the latest, and I should be able to have them out the door, Wednesday, Thursday at the latest to you folks. And I know those of you who have emailed me, you're probably saying, hey, you haven't sent me any bank account details or anything yet. That's because I wanted to make sure we could actually deliver these things to you before we go charging you any money for them. That's just how it is. So when I'm sure that I have them in my hot little hand, I will be in contact with you and ask you for an account, or I'll share an account with you that you can deposit into, and that'll allow us to pay Ainsley, and everything else will be looked after by Vince. So God love him, marvellous man. He does an awful lot for us, and he does most of it for nothing, can I tell you? An absolute legend of a human being. Just having a bit of a glance down at some of these comments here. G'day, Kathy. Nice to see Kathy in the room. Chris, you made a comment somewhere or other in regards to taking it down in 20 minutes. Oh, well, we can't go saying these things. Hello, Connie. Love to see you and Alan. I guess maybe you'll be going out to march on Sunday. We might be able to catch up there. My world has been turned upside down a little bit this afternoon, folks. So my Sunday attendance, for a variety of reasons, may be inhibited somewhat. What you can't see at the moment is I've got my knee all wrapped up. That's because somewhere or other today I've managed to twist it and do it a bit of mischief. I've also got a really, really crook back and neck, and that's stretching down into my lower back as well. And I'm hopeful. I don't really go to doctors. This is the problem. Because I don't trust them. And chiropractors and all that sort of stuff, they play with your neck, and you come home with a lisp if you don't drive off the road and hit a tree because you've got something broken. I know that happens, and it's rare that it happens, but it can happen. However, I do need this sort of instant relief. I've just been speaking to a masseuse, a really good Thai masseuse, a lovely fella named Raymond, who's very close to me here, and I was going to try and slip into his place and let him try and rip his magic on my shoulder tomorrow. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I would hope that Sunday will be all good. And we're going to talk about the Sunday March very shortly. Gavin, what's this one? We could go to Mount Cootha on Sunday, but no, we're diverted yet again to yell at trees in the park. Gavin, I find your logic hard to argue with. Let me just say. I was having a conversation last night with two wonderful friends. We've been kicking around ideas about things we can do together, and what we were talking about, these marches and what, if anything, we can all do to get rid of the government. As we were speaking yesterday in yesterday's show, it is the government that is the problem. Less than 26% of the population voted for these people, and they are making decisions which we do not feel are reflective of the general population and certainly the majority of Australians. Now, those decisions stretch across a vast number of areas, including signing us up to things with the WHO and the WEF. I think that there are problems with what the Australian corporate government has done for us at the UN and how they've incorporated us there. And very shortly, the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, NATO, is going to have us as a member. The southernmost continent in the world, if you believe the world's round. Just for those of you who don't. So, yes, I might be shit-stirring a bit. So, yes, these marches, shouting at the trees, as Gavin so eloquently puts it, what effect do they have? And some of the suggestions last night were, well, we should have a global, one-day strike. We've seen these one-day strikes, these global one-day days of action or inaction, as the case may be. Oh, don't pay your rates this day, or don't buy fuel that day, or don't go to the supermarkets that day. And the whole world doesn't do it on that day, and then these big corporates lose money on that day. Bullshit. They don't. I've seen this work time and time and time again, particularly where they say, oh, don't go and buy fuel. You're not going to buy fuel on a Wednesday. Well, you know what the fuel companies do? They put the fuel up from Thursday to Tuesday, and then on the Wednesday, they drop it 20 cents a litre. And everybody who had these great intentions of not buying fuel on a Wednesday, all of a sudden are lined up behind each other at the Bowser. One day protests, it's like going to... Well, look, it's about as useful as taking 1 million people to Canberra for a day or two, or maybe 3 at a stretch. About as useful as taking 2 million people to Canberra, having them line up in the lawns in front of Parliament House and being told by people to go home, come back in March when it's cold. So I think there is some very interesting things going on with this march, and the other one being proffered by Darren, and I think Darren and Craig are involved in Melbourne, along with Jackie Dundee as organisers. And I don't know who's involved. Oh, yes, I do. Tricky's involved in Brisbane, and the usual crew, with the same crew in Sydney involved for September 13. Except I'm hearing stories now that, September 13, which was going to be a global march, a global day, a global thing. We're all going to get involved, another big global thing. And I was also told no politics. Nobody's going to be selling T-shirts. Nobody's going to be selling hoodies. Nobody's going to be selling bits of silver or gold or anything else. It's just purely, for the people. A bit like the march happening on the 31st of March. Now that I'm saying it out loud. In fact, exactly the same as. Except this time round, it'll have approved speakers being put forward, because whoever's putting together this march in the various different places are not approved people or don't know what they're doing. Or, yes, I would agree, it's been a bit of a shit fight in certain parts. I'm not expecting any trouble in Brisbane. I think Melbourne will be the only place that has trouble, and it will have trouble, and I'll name it those who I expect to cause that trouble here and now. That will be the pro-Aboriginal multicultural group that is organising an alternative rally that's going to march its way straight into the crowd at Flinders Street. So that's going to be construed in some way, shape or form as a racial divide, and there's going to be militant people in that group. They've already made threats against organisers. They've made it quite clear that they're going to march with some determination, and who knows what they've been paid to do, because you got to remember, these are the corporate Aboriginals who've been well bought for many, many years. The urban Aboriginals who've been paying homage to those corporate friends of theirs in government who've been making sure that the money keeps getting handed down to this land council or that land council, and the control of that land council. These are the people who bring us $1,500 to charge us $1,500 to get welcome to our own country at a footy game. Now, it's a varying scale, I'll admit. Some people may charge nothing, but they're few and far between. Some people might charge $100, but there'll be 10 or 15 dancers. They'll all want $100 too. They've milked this thing for what it can be. And I'm not saying this is the good people of Australia, the good, like not willing to rip the system off kind of people. There are plenty of them, but unfortunately, our particularly urbanized First Nations people have been bought, blackmailed, bribed, beard up, I don't know, bashed, abused, and now they suffer from Munchausen's by proxy, I think. Oh no, what's the other one? The where you fall in love with your abductor. Forgotten it. Anyway, absolutely shocking. So now I'm hearing that this all-encompassing, freedom-loving, September 13, not going to have politics involved rally is now being postponed. Now, I don't know if this is true. I'm not completely sure if it's been released yet or if it's out there somewhere. It might have been out there since this morning. I don't know. But for all the hoo-ha and all the bullshit and all of the calamity that's been caused by people who were wanting to be involved in this March 31 march and were told politely, impolitely, I don't know, I never was part of any of those conversations, but we're told, no, thanks, we're not doing speeches like that. No, thanks, we don't need your organizational skills. We're going to do something different. And when they were told that, they went away and got their nose out of joint and immediately started attacking this as being run by amateurs. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be infiltrated. It's going to be this. They are the largest screamers of the lot. And Tricky up here in Brisbane in particular was very, very vocal about having the right speakers, the right kind of stage presence, the right kind of people on the stage, the right kind of people who'll deliver the right kind of message. Just as long as you grease my hand with silver or whatever else. So it turns out, if this is true, that this wonderful worldwide, been planned for months movement to have a march on September 13th isn't going to go ahead, I wonder if you can guess what sort of well, what would stop that? I mean, shit! I've lost my spot. God, I saw a comment and it's taken me off my bloody spot and I forgot where I was at. What was I saying? Somebody quickly prompt me. I'll scroll back down to the bottom of the comments. Somebody accused of run by Nazis, Palestine protest, also ridiculous. I was talking about the protest. Oh, yeah, right. So, all right, the protest. The 13th not being run. Okay, no politicians involved. What would be the reasons, do you think? What would be the reasons that these groups would say, oh, no, we can't do it now on the 13th of September? Could it be because there's a by-election? The Kiama state by-election to elect a member of the Legislative Assembly in New South Wales. Could it be because there's one in Queensland too, although this one is a full postal by-election and it's for Somerset Regional Council, but they are the only by-elections happening in Australia on the 13th of September. Kiama, I haven't had a look into it yet, but Kiama might be pretty interesting when it comes to the balance of power, if in fact that is a thing in the New South Wales Parliament. I don't know. But isn't it interesting that the Kiama state by-election out of New South Wales is enough to stop not just a national protest on the 13th of September, but a global one, apparently. One that's been planned forever. Am I the only one that thinks that's a bit weird? I mean, I'm prepared to be told, oh, Carl, you're a dickhead. You're overthinking this. So Deb says the 13th in London is a big protest. Well, God, they're protesting every day in the UK at the moment. Liverpool, Manchester, some of these places are turning into quite violent protests as well because they're literally being overrun. People are being thrown in jail in the UK for making a post on Facebook. I think over 30 people have been thrown in jail so far. How would you be having the local coppers turn up on your door? Oh, you said something on Facebook, we'll take you to jail, son. My God. Freedom of speech, folks. Freedom of speech. What? Pretty soon you won't be able to say anything like that. And there'll be so many things they will go back in retrospect and, God, I'll be in trouble. And they'll hang you out to dry for. They may even lock you up for that. What though? I hope you're feeling better, mate. I don't know if you're still in hospital. Yeah, Tommy Robinson is hosting an event over there at the moment. I'm trying to get a hold of Tommy, but he's a very busy man. He's sought by a lot of people for talks, and he's a very cautious man. Yeah, I think he has to be, given what's happened in his world. If any of you happen to have a way to get to him, some direct way to get to him, then please reach out on my behalf. I've really only got the normal public ways to go through to try and attract his attention, and either he couldn't give a shit, doesn't really want to talk, or he's just not seeing it, because I imagine he gets, like I do, a huge pile of mail, and he does the best he can to keep up with it. But sometimes, as happens, we fall behind. So, yeah, if you do have a way to reach out, then please tell him that we'd love to have him here on the Voice of Freedom for a chat. And we can see a lot of issues, similar issues, in their infancy here in Australia, at least compared to what's going on in Europe and the UK. What I will do in the next little while, I've got a very dear friend, I think I've spoken about him before, Dirk, who lives just outside of Munich in Germany. And I've known him since I was 5 years of age. He lived next door to my grandmother in what was then East Germany. And we were pen pals as kids as we grew up, and we've maintained a friendship. Now, he wrote on Messenger the other day, and he's telling me what it's like in Germany. I was going to try and get him to read it so that I could record it and play it for you, but he's a bit shy. His English isn't great. So I'll copy that and paste it and bring it up so that we can go through it one night. But you will be horrified at what's going on in Germany at the moment, and so many other places in Europe where they too are being practically invaded by Ukrainians and Afghanis, to name just a couple. So Samantha. No. And no. No. They may have some form of court, a Sharia court, that might get to deal with Muslims, maybe, but in a Western Christian democracy that allows you to have a Muslim court, they're not going to allow you to chop somebody's hand off or stone them to death or do those other cool things that Muslims like to do to people who piss them off. So, I'm being facetious when I say cool things. So, no, I don't know what we'll go forth and do there. I was going to start at the top of my list and work my way down. So let me just go back to our bunch of interesting pictures. Here's something that I thought you would find amusing. And given what I'm about to talk about, let's start with a bit of a gag, shall we? This is the front page of the Canberra tourism site, canberratourism.com or whatever the hell it is. And this is their new catchphrase: Canberra, there's more than they're telling us. Ain't that the friggin' truth, folks? There is a lot more to Canberra than they're telling us about. And now they're telling us about it on the front page of their tourism website. Unbelievable. What they don't tell us about is things like this. Now, if you're looking at that and saying, what that? You're looking at the way that people have been hidden inside a semi-trailer. Now, I don't think they've been hidden terribly well there. I think they're just sitting in it with the top on. However, it does get a little more interesting. You see them being x-rayed here going through the US border and being caught in these little compartments that have been built into the load. And then there's ones like this where there's a child being smuggled through in a suitcase. Why are we talking about this? Because we have lost sight of the fact that human trafficking is the biggest business in the world, and every nation is part of it. Australia has been part of it for a long time, and we all want to believe that this is being rooted out by a bunch of cue card holding white hats rampantly raping their way and pillaging their way through God knows what sort of horrors and tunnels underneath the earth, hopefully setting off some of those explosions that trigger earthquakes 10 kilometers underground. Now, I don't think they should be raping and pillaging their way through. Sorry, getting a bit excited in my verbosity. We are hopeful that these sorts of things are happening, but hope is running out. Hopium is retreating on a daily basis, and our tolerance for accepting more of it is waning. So where do we draw the line between what we hope and what we see, and then interpret that as some action? So I want to use the Smithsonian as an example. Donald Trump has issued an order that there be an audit undertaken of the Smithsonian. Now, it's an extensive audit. It's not just of everything that it has on display. It's of everything that it has off display. And it is of all the things that are held in the rooms and the passages, in the halls and in the tunnels underneath Washington, D.C. The Smithsonian, if you're unaware of it, is a number of museums scattered around the National Mall in Washington, and they're interconnected by these tunnels, these maintenance tunnels, if you like, where they can shift exhibits around and put them into storage and do all that sort of different sorts of stuff. And there's a lot of other nefarious stuff we believe goes on in there too. And Donald Trump, if he is the person, the cue card holding white hat we believe him to be, it knows that too. So why order an audit? Well, that's because he can send the National Guard, who he has now stationed in Washington as he's federalized DC. He can send them in, pardon me, and send them in. He has. What will they find? What are they looking for? My understanding is that they are looking for evidence that has been locked away in rooms that might provide truth, evidential truth to some of the history that we have been brainwashed not to believe, or it has been erased from our history books we know nothing about. And by the sound of it, he's trying to lead off with either Tartaria or something that goes a little bit more deeper into the Bible, and Nephilim bones. Now, there is talk that the Smithsonian has a human jawbone that is larger than a V-dub hidden in a back room somewhere. Now, that's a very large jawbone for a human to have. but it's definitely a humanoid jawbone. They have legs, they have arms, they have full skeletons of individuals ranging from 9 to 15 feet in height. There is some that are bigger, but they're a different sort of race. Now, are these giants? Are these Nephilim? Are these some quirky kind of prehistoric NBA basketball player? They're certainly not the latter. But we're never going to find out if study of them is either hidden away forever or not conducted at all, or only conducted by people with, shall we say, the approved qualifications, so that the approved answers can be put out. Really hope so. Really, really hope so. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. Keep your legs crossed, folks. It's the latest warning. There is a rampant STI on the roof. That's a sexually transmitted infection. An STI, we used to call them an STD. That was a sexually transmitted disease. I guess infection sounds less worrisome than disease, does it? Here's what the disease looks like in black and white. There are 6 lovely photos of it. If I was any kind of a doctor, I'd probably be able to say, if you look at photo A and compare it to photo F, you'll see that there is 3 little spots difference. But if you look at B, C, D, and E, you'll see there are varying white spots in various places. But for all I know, the white spots might be the good bit. I really can't help you. But anyway, the STD warning is quite strong. They're warning that it is a lot like chlamydia, this thing. It's called MGen or MG, and it's a bacterial infection that can cause you genital pain, bleeding, and swelling. Yes, I'm resisting the swelling joke. If you leave it untreated, it can cause infertility and miscarriages. It's a very nasty little thing if you should be able to get that. Why would you get that? How would you get that? Why are there increasing incidences of this? Well, I don't know. Jibbity jab me, I do not know. It's just curiouser and curiouser. Here's some encouraging news. I may have mentioned this already, but in passing, but it's a for real story. The Noticer had this out, must be a week or 2 ago now. Homeschooling is on the rise in Australia. Parents reject woke bullshit. Couldn't agree more with them. The incidence of homeschooling in Queensland is up 251%. Yeah, and that's just Queensland. Wait for it. New South Wales, 283%. That is a huge amount of people who've decided to turn away from the public-private schooling system, the public-private brainwashing system, and take responsibility for their children and their education themselves. Like how it used to be, I think, in many cases, before education became, well, am I being too harsh by calling education a babysitter? Because it gave mum or dad, whoever was at home, 8 hours a day when they're at school to go off and do adult things like work. But back in the day when you and I grew up, many of us of a certain age, our mothers didn't work. They didn't have to work. And that's what this new age that's dawning upon us is supposedly going to bring back. You know, prices back to the 50s kind of thing. That will mean that, well, we'll have all our taxes returned to us. We won't have a need to work. We will be, okay financially, particularly if you've got a bit of gold and silver. But what's going to really change in our lives? One of the things that has to change in our life is this division, this angst, this rush to be involved with organising and being at the front of these things like marches. You know, this 13th of September march is now. Did you need any further evidence that it was all politically motivated? The attacks that started immediately, the normal people were not allowed to play a role in putting this thing together, organise the stage, put up the PA, make sure they had access to the speakers list, all that kind of thing. And no politics involved. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. We're just not doing. We don't want to do the march on the 31st because that's a racist march. And yours wasn't political, hey? If it's all called off, it's because of a by-election. How much more friggin' political do you want to be? Do you think this global march, and I know there's one happening in London and there's meant to be one happening in New York, and I don't know if there's one happening in New Zealand, but we're not going to have one in Australia because the right kind of people who would be speaking and marching at that march, out the front of it, controlling it, will be otherwise occupied trying to get whatever mate over the line at that by-election. Or are they just worried that in the lead up to the by-election, where the parties will be spending lots of money in that area to try and get whoever it is they want across the line, are they worried that this big global march that isn't politically motivated might in some way inhibit the election? Last I heard or experienced, you didn't have to spend all day at a polling place if you were going to a by-election. You just needed to go in, put your mark on a bit of paper somewhere, not necessarily actually have to prove who you are, and walk out again. Pretty fast process, half an hour, maybe if you're really lucky. Little towns around Kiama, I would have thought would be very fast indeed. Wouldn't preclude you from going and being involved in something on that day, because it's a whole day, right? Isn't it? And if not, everybody turns up at 8 o'clock in the morning when the polling place opens. You're all out by 10. You're off at the march by 12. Seems pretty interesting, easy. But I know now it's got to stop. Now it may not. Like I'm saying, this may not have stopped, and I hope. Well, I hope they can come up with a better reason for it if it is stopped. Put it that way. But I'm finding it very difficult to understand why these people would want to be doing that march on that day, and why they so vehemently attacked this march on the 31st. And now a lot of them are backpedaling. They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to rewrite what actually happened. I watched all of it happening. I kept a note of it, all of it happening, and who said and did what, where and why. So let's not go rewriting history here, folks. The attacks began pretty much as soon as people were told they weren't required as organisers. And I'll be honest, some of those attacks came from surprising areas. And some of those attacks are pure gaslighting. It's disgusting, shocking. How about if we're going to do this, folks, we all act in honour. Hey? Just act in honour. It should not be that hard. But people find it very difficult. People get their noses out of joint. I'm not angry at anybody. I'm not upset at anybody. I'm not shunning anybody or anything like that. But I know that I am being shunned from others in this movement. Why is that? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't have enough to offer. That could well be the case. Maybe it's because I tend to pick things apart logically, and sometimes that scrutiny is a bit hard to sit through if you happen to be on the receiving end of it. And I've told you, I'm in it for the truth. I act in honour. So that's why I don't get too many meetings with politicians. I don't like people like me, because I want them to act in honour as well. And you ask them about it, and they'll say they are, but then you show them 100 examples of where they haven't, and they don't really want to talk to you again. So I've got to learn how to do that a little bit better, I suppose. Or I've got to learn to start doing a lot more comedy and taking the piss out of them, using their own words and actions to expose exactly what they're doing. So, I don't know. It's interesting days, interesting times, and a few changes floating around here. As I've said, I've been trying to get some morning shows out. I think all this week, if I managed to get any out this week, I don't know, maybe one. This morning, I was going to hope to get a show out, but I'll be honest, my shoulder was all frozen this morning, and I lay in bed until probably 8 o'clock, which is unheard of for me, and then got out and tried to free it up and get... Anyway, didn't work. And here I am. So hopefully tomorrow morning, I will be able to get a chat with Michael Offey from Canberra. Paul Offey, I did speak with Michael late last night after the show, just on the phone. He was at the airport picking up some witnesses, and the court case yesterday, from all accounts, went very, very well. There were a couple of minor little hiccups, but Paul is starting to hit his straps, from what I hear, with how he deals with the court, how information is being passed between his Mackenzie's friend and himself, particularly in cross-examination. We've all seen cross-examination dramatized in TV shows, movie shows, that kind of thing. Basically, it is cross-examination. So if the person sitting in the witness stand says something that should trigger a different line of questioning, or you catch them on a hook there somewhere, Paul, because of the nature of his brain injuries, may see that, but it will take some little while for him to compute that and try and formulate a question that he should be asking. It's all very difficult. He wouldn't be able to do that in any short period of time. However, his Mackenzie's friend can, and they now figured out a communication system where Paul is able to go back and review these things pretty quickly. Old mate was typing in shorthand, I think, initially, and Paul was having a few struggles understanding that, but now he's starting to get the flow of it. By all accounts, he's conducted himself very well. And yesterday's proceedings involved testimony from 2 police officers, one of whom is the female who conducted the operation to break into the truck up on the steps of Parliament House, or up on the forecourt there. And the other is a fellow named Borman, who has starred in many of the court actions that have taken place around the Freedom Rally in Canberra, and many of the Canberra Standers actions that have been taken against them. And interestingly, he figured quite largely in the Brittnay Higgins investigation, her rape investigation in Canberra, where she was yesterday found, liable to pay Linda Reynolds, the former minister whose desk or couch she said she was raped on. She's got to pay her $341,000 plus her legal fees, which will go into the millions. Now, Brittnay got paid $2.9 million by the government very quickly by way of compensation after these claims were made. She then very quickly went off and spent that money, and I believe she said she only had, by the time everything was paid for, taxes and all that, she got 1.9 million. And she and her new husband, David Schwartz, who's also been found guilty of defamation and also liable to pay that $341,000 plus all the legal fees to Linda Reynolds. They shot off to France, bought a house, and were going to live happily ever after. She even got pregnant, I believe. And she may have had the baby not all that long ago. Anyway, they've had to sell the house. They've had to come back to Australia. They've had to maybe look for work. Who knows? But they've lost, and Linda Reynolds has won. Now, what this does for her other cases, and what this might do for old mate who went down for supposedly raping her. Bear in mind, he was not found guilty of that charge in a criminal case. He was found guilty of it in a civil case where the burden of proof is nowhere near as stringent as it is in a criminal case. And I'm thinking that he's probably appealing that as well. Of course, he is also fighting at least one, that possibly is two other rape charges, I think, in the Toowoomba Supreme Court at the moment, and that's with two other women. So he might want to be aware of that that rather savage bit of news we were talking about earlier, that STI that's getting around there. And it's not a good thing when... Oh, I was going to do an old joke there. It's not a good thing about your thing if you put... No, we're not going to go there. Hey, listen, there's a few interesting things I'll go through quickly here. I don't have any pictures for, so I'm going to read them off for you. Do you know what... Do you know what economic complexity is? I've got to admit, I didn't really understand what economic complexity truly meant until I got an article sent to me yesterday as part of the Ainsley Bullion newsletter. And I read that, and I discovered that in the world, Australia, when it comes to economic complexity, ranks under Kuwait, Uganda, Pakistan, Laos, and Kenya. All right. We've fallen 40 places in the world ladder of economic complexity since 1995. 40 places. So what does that actually mean? Well, if an iron bar costs $5, Australia has the ore to make that iron bar, and that costs $5. What do we do with it? Well, we sell it off. So let's say somebody buys an iron bar and makes horseshoes out of it. All of a sudden, it's worth $12. Somebody else buys an iron bar and turns it into needles, hypodermic syringes, or no, better still, just sewing needles. $3,500 worth of them. Somebody else goes and makes tiny little balance springs for watchmakers. And all of a sudden, that one bar of iron that cost us $5 and we get $5 for is worth $300,000. So economic complexity for mine equals having a manufacturing base. To be a country that is safe, it needs an economic base. A complex economic base, meaning we should be involving ourselves in more of the production process than just the part of digging it out of the ground and putting it on a boat and sending it to China. I might have that wrong, and I'm going to see if I can get Chris Tipper on from Ainsley to talk more about it, because I am no financial analyst. I'm certainly no stock market analyst or anything like that. But this economic complexity argument really does tweak my imagination, because, I really want to try and do whatever we can to get manufacturing happening back here in Australia. I was only talking to somebody about it the other day. How do we get a car? How do we get an Australian-made car happening again? And something that can be made cheaply, affordably bought by any Australian, right? Any Australian, affordably bought. And how do we put that on a production line? Where are the old production lines? What's left of the production lines? And what could we do with automated production lines these days? How much does that cost? Do we have people willing to get behind? God knows we had some very wealthy people very happy to get behind places of spectacular Australian relevance, including Gubby Gubby, the station. Is it Gubby Gubby? That's people I know, but what's the big cotton station? That one. Up north, they went and got a whole pile of Australians together to buy that rather than the Chinese. And they were very rich Australians. And look, I think they only put in, it was hundreds of millions of dollars. It wasn't billions of dollars, put it that way. But that was to make sure that the cotton stayed with us. And even now, I don't think that it really has. The Chinese have bought everything around it. But that's just one example. How do we entice that sort of money to be invested back into a manufacturing plant? Where are our car designers? Do we have any anymore? What does it truly take to design and make an Australian vehicle? Do we have the electronics wizards here who can do a schematic and lay out a loom that's easy to work? I don't think we've got any of those skills left here in Australia, sadly. I think they've all had to go overseas, or they've been replaced by robots overseas, so nobody's going anyway. I don't know. Yeah, Ivan, I think you're 100% right. Nothing will be made in Australia while we are under the UN. 100%. Australia used to be great. AWA TVs, remember them? His Master's Voice, I think that was another Australian one. Might not have been. Pi. Do you remember Pi TVs? I think they were made in Adelaide. Was Rank Arena? I think Rank Arena was an Australian brand as well. And these, for all I know, could have been, imported Japanese parts assembled somewhere in Sydney or Melbourne, for all I know. But there were people working. People had jobs. People felt fulfilled. They were able to raise families, pay off houses, have holidays. My, how things have changed. And they're going to change further, folks, because this is your future. Now, I know we're all looking at that. And how many of you, now, hang on. I want you to be honest. How many blokes look at that and say, I want that? There might even be a couple of girls out there who are looking at that and say, how nice would it be just to have that microwave just there and all me munchies up the side. And the blokes, the fridge on my side, a lot of soft drink in that fridge, but geez, wouldn't that? Surround sound system. Just look bloody great, wouldn't it? Oh, yeah, that's me, mate. I want one of them. So I would just caution you, be careful of what you wish for, because that, my friends, is exactly what they want you to live in. That's going to be your house one day soon. Yes, if you're married, you might have a double seat, but that's really only going to make it much harder to reach the microwave or the fridge for the person on the opposite side. But all you need to make a compliant population happy is keep them fed, keep them watered, and you slap an AI headset on them, and they can be happy anywhere they like. From AI porn to AI holidays, the only modification that chair is going to need is a little hole and a tube that goes up your ass. Because when you've drunk everything and you've eaten everything, you're going to need a crap. And why would they expect you to get up out of there? And why would you expect you to have to get up and go somewhere else to have a crap when you've got a chair like that to live your life in? I shit you not. That'll be the way it goes, folks. They want us in that sort of an environment. And the AI goggle, I have resisted and resisted and resisted. There have been maybe 3 times in my life in the last few years where I've had money in my pocket where I could have gone and bought a set of these AI goggles. You know, I think they're used with, I don't know if it's PlayStation or with the other one, Xbox, I don't know. There's another version, I can't think of the name of them now, that I don't think uses either of those. It's just an online realm. I've resisted buying those because I want to try and test them out. I want to see where the trap is in them. But it's such an obvious trap that I struggle with, and I think they're close to $1,000 to buy these sorts of systems. I struggle with the cost and what happens if I like it. You know, there are plenty of people who live their life inside the 4 walls of their house or apartment and only go out when they absolutely have to. And their greatest life-saving, life-changing event in the last 20 years is DoorDash, and the fact that they can order their groceries online and have them dropped off with faceless, contactless delivery. Bear in mind, we've been conditioned, folks, and we've been conditioned to really put our hands up and say, "Whoa, I want a chair like that." Just be careful, because you will get a chair like that. You'll just never, ever get out of it again. Now put the little goggles on you, and you'll be a very, very, very happy chappy. At least, look, there'll be one upside to all of that. You'll be able to avoid the dickheads on the road. Love you all. Stay good. See if we see you in the morning or not. I'll play the other one, shall I?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!